Hey y'all, this is Ladies Talk on K84 Podcast. We're so glad you joined us today. We have a group of ladies from the southwest part of the United States, and we just want to share our views and opinions. We're all different and we respect each other. You're welcome here. And today, actually, some of our guests or our hosts are out, not with us today, but we have 4 beautiful guests, and we're really excited to share with you our topic tonight.
Ladies Talk on K84 Podcast.
It's official. On K84 Podcast.
So my name's Marissa, and let's let our guests introduce themselves and tell us a little about yourself.
Hi, I'm Rady. It's R-A-D-I, like radio without the O. I am 40. I have 3 grown children, and I work at Amazon.
All right. How about you?
I'm Sadie. I just do hair and pretty much write music and a whole bunch of other things. I like to do art, so yeah, that's one of my things. And it's just me and my dog. I don't really have any kids, so.
Awesome.
Hi, I'm Christy, and I am a 52-year-old Nana, which is one of the greatest things in my life. I have 2 grandchildren and 1 daughter and my son-in-law, and they're all my world. And I am a program manager for software for the B-1 bomber. So.
Nice. Smarty pants.
Hi, I'm Brittany. I am 31. I am young and great.
There she is.
No. I have 2 kids, 6 and 3, and I homeschool them. And yeah, I'm just a grateful believer in Jesus as well, and here to just learn and teach as well. So thanks for having me.
First, we're going to start with an icebreaker question to kind of loosen us up a bit and get us to kind of share a little bit of our personality with our audience. The question tonight is, if a movie was made of your life, what genre would it be? Is it a thriller, drama, comedy, whatever? And who would play your part? What actress would you pick? So, who wants to go first?
I guess I'll go first. Mine would probably be a comedy/drama, and I would want Queen Latifah to play my part.
Oh, sweet.
Yes.
Perfect.
Oh, I love that.
Nice.
How about you, Rady?
Genre would probably either be thriller or pay-per-view. And I don't know who would be brave enough to play me.
Okay, interesting.
Love it.
Next.
I'll go. So I think dramedy for me, but it can cross over into thriller as well.
Yeah.
And I think I would have to go with a dramedy. It would be Melissa McCarthy.
Oh, I love her. She's
Melissa McCarthy is the
hilarious.
best.
Anything with her, I'm like, yep, we're watching it.
I'd probably say a romantic comedy with a little bit of thriller in there, But I would definitely say Mandy Moore, just because I feel like she takes on a lot of my tendencies and personality trait, and I love her as an actress. So I would definitely have to say Mandy Moore.
Nice.
Yeah.
I would say my life has been a dramatic romance, and I would want Anne Hathaway to play my part. I think she looks like me kind of, and she's kind of funny, kind of sweet, and a little bit quirky, so
Yeah.
that's totally me.
Perfect.
All right, so good answers. The topic tonight, we're going to jump right into it. Overcoming negative behaviors stemming from trauma. So why did I pick this topic? This is our special edition show because all the other ladies aren't able to make it. Kenna says, pick the topic and your guests. And I was like, what can I talk about for an hour? And I'm like, trauma, because I have a lot of it. And I'm not professional. I do have a degree in counseling, but other than that, I just want to start by saying none of us have like, we're not therapists, we're not doctors, psychiatrists. So if you need help, please don't just take the advice of random strangers on the internet. Go get help from professionals. So we're just here chatting tonight about our own life experience, what we learned, and we want to share it and help people. So another reason I picked this topic, because the men's talk and the ladies talk show has been kind of talking a lot about relationships lately, the last few episodes. And I thought, this is very helpful to talk about trauma, because pretty much everybody has some kind of trauma that they've been through in their life, and it affects your relationships. It really does. So if we can help each other understand who we are, why we do what we do, and be more empathetic with each other, I feel like men and women in different relationships can help each other a lot more than instead of fighting each other. So let's start by saying, I already said we're not therapists. Let's just jump into the first question. What is trauma? What do you think it is, and what does it look like?
So recently, I've been dating this guy for a little over a year, and we've done a lot more, actually, in-depth communication about things that I've never had a chance to go in-depth with somebody before. And one of the things we have come to is when we're struggling with something, when it's something that we've dealt with in the past, that we're not necessarily reacting to our partner, we're reacting to something that's triggering something else. History lessons.
I like that.
We instantly call history lessons. Because at some point in the fights, we've gotten to the point, arguments.
Yeah.
We've gotten to the point of, what is wrong with you? Not necessarily like that, but just why are you acting this way? I don't understand. And we've gotten to the point of understanding history lessons. So if we get in a disagreement and we're arguing, we don't understand why the other one is, like, it doesn't make sense. Why are you so upset? And they say history lessons. We instantly de-escalate, because then we know that the person is not reacting to us, they're reacting to a trigger.
Right.
So then we go into what we've kind of considered this like road work. Like, you get up and you've got a barricade, and so now you have to figure out how to get around it. What is the cause? Why is it here? How can we negate that and get around it and work together to detour around that trigger?
I love that.
We were just talking about this in the car.
Yeah, I feel like
honestly.
more relationships understood that and took the time to do that, they wouldn't have so many breakups. Like,
sometimes
we can figure it out.
you don't realize that it's a history lesson until you get to that point with somebody and you go, it's not you. You're not the problem. What is the problem?
Yeah, that's good. Sometimes what we've been through makes us act a certain way. Yeah.
And we project onto our partners that way. Yeah. We think they need to fix it, and it's really not their problem. It's ours, Collectively it is together, but not always. So.
Right. We can do the work together. We can get around it together. We can help each other navigate.
Right.
But that doesn't mean it's our demon to overcome.
Right. Absolutely.
How about you, Sadie? What do you think trauma is?
I feel like trauma is, of course, something that happens from traumatic events, but I mean, I don't know. It's like I've had a whole bunch of different types of trauma, so yeah, they come in different forms.
Yeah. Can you give us an example, anyone? Like, what is trauma?
Well, I
Traumatic.
think it's important to understand that it's not an event. It is the emotional response that we have in our bodies and in our minds that comes from an event that occurs.
Right.
Some kind of distressing situation that you go through, an event, and it is your response in your body for that. And it's not just in your mind, it's a physiological response in your body. And it does things to you in a biological chemical way. So I think it's important to understand that it's not just the emotions, it's actual physical and chemical reactions that you're having.
Right.
Yeah, and we'll get into that, exactly like what the signs and symptoms are. And but I just kind of want to start with, like, what is trauma? What causes us to have those symptoms? So, like, just examples: abuse, loss, divorce, any kind of domestic violence, rape, going through car accidents, traumatic events.
Yes.
I mean, war, losing your house to a fire, something dramatic. But a lot of us just go through simple things.
Anything.
Like watching our parents go through a divorce. That was traumatizing as a kid, you know.
Absolutely.
Anything your brain
Yeah.
connects as fear or something that is alarming or not safe is going to cause a traumatic experience in your life, or especially in your body. And it's harder to work through stored things inside of your body that's traumatic than it is in your brain. That's why willpower doesn't work here, truly. It's about feeling safe. It's about grounding yourself. It's about figuring out those spaces that don't make sense to you and taking confusion into confirmation and conclusion, you know. It's not easy to, and a lot of people don't even know they have trauma. They're like, I've never had, because they're working through it as if it's something that they have in their mind. Oh, well, I don't think that way. I don't respond that way. Well, you barking up this kind of tree over something this small is traumatic. That's trauma stored. Yeah.
Yep. So, yeah, basically losing anything in life, relationships, belongings, sanity, you know, going through something horrific where you were not in control and you felt frightened. So that's a traumatic event. All right. So what are the signs and results of trauma? How do you know you're traumatized because of this traumatic event? I think that means this event changed your perspective on life, the world, people around you, yourself, or God. That's how you know you've been traumatized, because you all of a sudden have a different thought or feeling or pattern because of that event, or psychological trauma and emotional damage came from that event. So what do you think, Rady?
Like, especially, I think it's the most noticeable thing is your difference in how you react to things, because there's like a lot of like TV shows and stuff, they'll do the before and after. Like when you're watching a show and you're so used to this show, like Grey's Anatomy. I won't give any spoilers. I'll be nice to anybody that watches it that hasn't gotten past the first few seasons.
Thank you.
But, you know, there's always that before this incident and after this incident. And it is exactly that way in our lives. You may not realize it until you look back later, but you can almost always find that before and after incident.
That's good.
I agree. I love that.
Anyone else?
I think it's the inability to cope. That's how I see it, is like if you have coping problems, if you have issues with your emotions and not being able to delegate them correctly, I think that's a sure sign someone has a traumatic event that they're either storing or they haven't processed. That's what I think, is just not being able to connect mind, body, and spirit into one and really pushing forward. I think that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, I think it has ongoing consequences with how you live your life now and how you process things now.
You're always going to be processing those things. I mean, maybe not always like to that degree, but you're definitely working through those patterns every day.
Right. And I have lists here of like symptoms of psychological trauma, like exactly what it looks like if you have PTSD or if you've, well, let me just read some of the issues. Basically, I learned this week that my entire personality is a trauma response. So there's that.
I'm sure I will agree with you.
Yeah.
But we're working on that. We're working on it. It's not who we are. Shock, denial, disbelief, confusion, difficulty concentrating, anger, irritability, mood swings, anxiety, fear, guilt, shame, self-blame, withdrawing from others, feeling sad and hopeless, feeling disconnected and numb. Symptoms of PTSD, and a lot of times PTSD and depression come, like, it's a very high probability that you're going to develop that after going through trauma, especially for women. So worrying a lot, feeling anxious, sad, fearful, crying often, trouble thinking clearly, having frightening thoughts or flashbacks, feeling angry, resentful, irritable, avoiding places and people that bring bad memories, becoming isolated from family and friends, even physical stuff we were talking about earlier, headaches, stomach problems, digestive issues, back pain, like difficulty sleeping, racing heart, very jumpy, easily startled. So these are like actual tangible things you can see. That person has trauma. So I don't know if any of you have experienced that or know someone who has, or if you want to say anything on that, just basically those symptoms.
I think I have definitely experienced most of those.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that is like a sure sign first that I'm having those really random things of pain. Like we were talking about earlier, how we're all getting old and we're feeling all those aches and pains and stuff. And it's like, you know, we have to look at it like that though. Like a lot of that can not just be getting older. Some of it does come from things we haven't processed yet. And having these weird, I even put this down, having these weird things that no doctors know how to cure or medicine can't touch. Like a lot of that is unprocessed emotion. A lot of it is things that we're not dealing with that we should. and that things that repetitively happen that you don't realize that are traumatic, and you continuously let them happen. That's maybe a relationship that you're in, a mom, a dad is a really big one, allowing those things to happen. I don't know. I just feel like physical symptoms, sickness, that kind of stuff is a sure sign that there's something going on in the body that it doesn't like. And we are an energy filled too, just as much as we're anything else. And those energies do attach to emotions a lot more than like an actual event. Like Chrissy was saying, it's not an event, it's how your body processes it. And I think that's a big one that people really overlook, you know?
Yeah.
And a big thing, in my opinion, is why I feel like, you know, just that holistic view is a little bit different. And that's why I follow that a little bit more, is because it really brings you to be more intuitive into your body and not just say, okay, well, here's the antidepressant, or here's the anxiety medicine, or here's the pain pills, or here's this, you know, or even just other coping mechanisms, you know, and those are other touchy things like addictions and all those things. So
yeah, we're going to get into that too, what those look like. But let's talk first about the 4 F's of trauma responses, which I know Brittany had some things to share about that. Have you heard of the 4 F's?
No, I haven't.
Fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. So this is just, I don't know much about it, but it's what I was reading in my research. There's different ways you respond to trauma. Some people will be a fighter, some people will flight. So what does that mean, Brittany? Did you want to share on that?
Yeah, we kind of talked about it. There are 4 original ones. There's 6 actually in completion. A lot of people don't know about the last 2, which we were kind of looking into that. But the fight is like just releasing any emotion that you have, whether that be anger, sadness. Like we are putting that emotion out into existence with our behaviors physically. A fight would be more like being restless in your body. You're fighting, like people that say I can't sit still. I know we're a lot alike in that. Like if you're constantly fidgety, can't be alone with your thoughts, you're like I'm doing, swaying my chair, I have trauma. This is a trauma response. You know, this is the fight or the flight, I guess. And then also like perfectionism, things like this, like having things to be perfect, that's also that kind of response as well. Fawn is like total disassociation. You want to, your body, your mind, all of it goes away. Like it doesn't want to be a part of it. Your physical body may be experiencing it and going through it, but you're not allowing yourself to go there at all. You don't want to. You'd rather just be like, bye. And this is like a good representation of this is like if you ever heard somebody say you sweep under the rug too much, or you know, those kinds of things. That kind of line would be you're a fawn type of personality. And then the 2 extra ones were fine and fainting. So fine would be like denying your trauma or downplaying it. So saying, oh, mine wasn't as bad as that person, or I wasn't, you know, I don't know. I don't even want to go to that one, but just saying like the worst thing that you ever could think about, and you not saying, oh, well, my trauma isn't as bad. Your body doesn't say that. Your body could be feeling just as bad as that person, but you didn't go through that. You know what I mean? So that's a big one. And then the fainting is just you literally faint to the ground. It's like you're so overwhelmed by this stress or this trauma that your body actually goes into like your vagus nerve, and it debilitates it to the point where you faint. Your heart is like not even beating really. And a lot of people think it's like that it's going too fast that you feel that way, but no, your heart's slowing down. So you come to this stage of like, I'm leaving myself, kind of like we were talking about. Yeah.
That's crazy.
So, and that could just be like, I'm overwhelmed from the week, you know, especially if we're working on our traumas and we're releasing them. Those types of behaviors could be like that week was a little bit more stressful, and every day you got to like count what does this look like, you know, and give yourself grace, you know, give yourself a lot of grace, especially if you're a woman with kids, a man with kids. I mean, just parenting, being in a relationship, a marriage is hard. I mean,
It's hard.
Yeah, Rady touched on that. It's a hard thing to be in, and we constantly are faced with not only our own traumas, but our partners too, even our friends, you know, we don't have to be in an intense relationship with that person for us to carry those burdens of those people and live those traumas with them. So that's just my take on it, you know, be very aware of those things, because I mean, you'll be able to tell just now and sitting, oh man, that's me, you know, that's me. I did that yesterday. Wow. So if you pay attention to those things and like, again, become intentional within your body and really look into that, you'll really start to find that maybe I'm not as good as I once thought I was, you know, but it's not bad, because we all can use that, right?
Yeah.
We can all repair.
Anyone else have anything to say about fight, flight, freeze, fawn?
Just really about the ending one. Was it the faint?
Yeah.
At one point in time, I was finding myself that I was going into, like, I was dissociating so much, and then, like, I didn't want to be around anybody. I didn't want to do anything, like, so I kind of understand that, and thankfully I kind of got out of it, so.
That's
Yeah.
good. That's good.
Like I said,
How'd you get out of it, if you don't mind me asking?
It was kind of like the help with the antidepressants and stuff for a little bit, but I kind of like start getting outside more, start trying to like be more active, being around people, being more social, and that kind of helped me. And of course, my sisters, they kind of pushed me, which is a good thing.
Connection. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk a lot about that, like what are the healthy coping mechanisms. But anyone else want to say anything about freeze, flight, fight?
I was going to say, is like, as far as the fainting thing, it just sounds, like you said, kind of like shutting down. And it makes me think of, like, infants. You know, when you've got a really colicky baby, one of the easiest ways to get them to shut down and go to sleep, run the vacuum cleaner. Because it overwhelms them, and they're like, you know what? I'm just going to sleep through this.
Yeah.
As far as what I think is a decent way to get them to go to sleep.
Right. No, but it's true. Yeah. It's like overstimulating their body. Yeah.
Good. All right, so the next thing we're going to talk about is what are healthy and unhealthy coping mechanisms. So everyone's gone through trauma. Everyone has, you know, negative side effects. Okay, so how do we cope with those? How do we deal with that? A lot of times people can turn to unhealthy things. And I would say it's like a habit or behavior that we pick up to protect ourselves, to cope with that pain because we can't face it. So it's like we have negative feelings and they're coming out in negative actions. Anyone else have an idea what you think that means, an unhealthy coping mechanism, or what that looks like?
Yeah, I think for me, I definitely had issues with codependency as a result of trauma and not processing it in a healthy way. So I became a people pleaser, you know, and suffering in an abusive relationship. I definitely wanted to do whatever it took to keep safe, right? Whatever I could do to please that person was what I wanted to do so that I wouldn't be hurt. So that developed into some behaviors that have caused me problems in other relationships in my life, right? Because I still would tend to want to be the people pleaser. And so you really don't want to be a people pleaser with your children, right? So
true.
Because that turns into enabling. So as my daughter became a teenager, I struggled a lot with being an enabler and with not wanting to discipline her with the necessary discipline she needed, and really that she craved. She probably would have been much better off if I had done more disciplining instead of being more of an enabler. So it took me getting into recovery and starting to learn about those things in order to start to understand codependency and you know, and then I've also had other unhealthy coping mechanisms such as just overeating and eating my feelings and you know, even taking medications to numb, and even though I was prescribed them, I still wasn't taking them appropriately, right? And then even financially and spending when I shouldn't be spending, and so there's a lot of different unhealthy coping mechanisms that you can use to try to make yourself feel better, but you're really actually hurting yourself more and more and more.
It's a good way of explaining it.
Yeah.
Yeah, doing anything in excess, but you're trying to take away the pain, but it's actually just postponing the pain or giving it away to someone else, basically.
Yeah.
And that those kind of addictions can look like anything.
Yeah.
I mean, any behavior. Scrolling your phone too much, trying to just not feel what you're going through, but end up feeling more depressed because, you know, everything you're seeing is really depressing. Gambling, porn addiction, video gaming, exercise, over caffeinating, like anything can become something you're doing so you don't feel what you need to feel.
Right. No, I agree with that. I think
Thanks for ruining my shot.
I also think that like emotions, like I don't know, feeling controlling or, you know, having that sense of control is a way to cope. I know that for me, that's a big one. Knowing that in every environment that I'm in, doesn't matter what it is, that I have control. And I adapt very quickly to that. I've always said I'm a chameleon when it comes to things that I'm very uncomfortable in, because I've allowed myself to have an adaptive thing in each part of that to be controlling, at least for myself, to feel comfortable, confident. Whatever that looks like. So I know that even those small things, those are things to look at too, is do I always have to be, you know, this person in every situation that I do? Or do I always respond this way? Or like Christy said, do I not maybe enable, but do I over hover with my kids, you know, because I want to have that control of them at all times, make sure they're not following in the patterns of this world that are bad, but also the ones that I've walked in, and I don't want my shoes to be filled with them, you know. I don't want them to walk in those same patterns. So that's a big one too.
One of mine that comes out a lot is catastrophizing, they call it, where you jump to the worst case scenario conclusion, and I'm super protective and over controlling, overbearing, because I want to protect them so badly from everything bad that I went through. And so it's like, no, you can't go to your friend's house, you're gonna get molested. No, you can't. Like, it's just, no, everybody's bad, no, you're gonna die, you can't drive this car, and like everything. Just overreacting. Mom, why are you so overreacting? It's like, you know what? Because I'm maybe overprotected, but it's because one point in my life I was underprotected. And that doesn't make it right, but it helps me understand why I do that. And I really need to work on that, because the whole world is not out to get my children just because something bad happened to me. So that's a big one. Catastrophizing, negative thoughts, over worrying about everything. For me also, mine was dangerous behaviors, reckless behaviors, just out of control, crazy things that don't make sense. Why am I doing this? Like, just compulsively, just feel like I can't live without it. And it was like, this is not who I really am. And it was like that before and after. I used to be one person, all of a sudden, completely different person. And doing things I never would have done. But it was just like a shift in my perspective on everything, and just lost my mind for a while, lost my sanity, and thought, if I do these things, it'll make me feel better. And it didn't work. Not at all. So anybody else have anything else to share, like your examples of coping mechanism?
One really important one for me is isolating.
Isolation.
I will definitely do that. And I feel like I'm trying to protect myself from the world, but I'm not. I'm not. I'm losing engagement with the world. And that's
good.
Very harmful.
Yeah, because if we've been hurt before, we don't want to get hurt again, so we don't want to let our walls down and trust people. But we're ended up hurting ourselves even more, because we're not letting people and be in a part of our lives and hindering ourselves. That's a good one.
Community heals you, for sure.
I'm going to say, for me, I think my biggest trauma response is I jumped to floor 100 in like 2.3 seconds. Like, it can be the smallest little thing, but because of how I experience it, it feels so much worse.
Same way.
I agree.
Anything?
Well, pretty much like how I said about the dissociation, like I was doing that, and then the recklessness, like, or impulse, doing things on impulse, I had that really bad, like, and then I would just be like, okay, why did I do that?
Right.
Yeah.
Good. This is a good conversation.
Yeah.
All right. So if we have unhealthy coping mechanisms, like, how do we know if it's affecting us or those around us? And how does it affect them? Like, some people will say, well, I don't have a problem. Oh, I can keep doing this because it's not hurting anyone, or I'm not hurting myself. Those excuses when you're in denial.
Right.
But, like, how can we wake people up? Like, what do you see in your life that you can notice? Okay, maybe it is time to make a change. This is how it's affecting you in your life and your family or your job or whatever. Any examples?
First of all, open your ears, because somebody is telling you. Somebody is talking to you. You're just not listening.
That's very true. I like that you said that.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, chances are, if everybody in your life's telling me something's a problem, probably true.
Yeah. Or if you're like the consistent pattern in all the things that are happening in your life that are pretty out there and bad, or not even that, just not good, you know, I think that you should start to look inward in that. Like, if you're fighting with your partner all the time and you seem to be the one who's carrying that emotion to the table every time, what is it that I'm lacking that I'm not getting? You know, a lot of it is I'm wanting but I'm not getting, and this is why we do these things, you know. So it's like, what am I lacking? What am I needing to be fulfilled in that's not giving me what I'm wanting, which is why I'm going out and doing all of this in the first place, you know. So I don't know.
Basically, I think in many cases, your life becomes unmanageable.
Mm-hmm.
Which
Yeah.
is something we'll talk about in the steps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll
For
get
sure.
into that. Yeah, I put down like just when I noticed I was hurting others, like when I noticed my kids were feeling neglected because of my choices and behaviors, I was like, wow, I may not be technically hurting myself, I thought, but when I realized it was hurting my kids, that's what really woke me up. Like, I need to make some changes here because they didn't feel like they had a mother, and that was unfair to them. But yeah, it can affect your relationships when you start giving into these habits and addictions because you're neglecting time and quality engagement with other humans that need you, or when you start getting angry and abusive towards them, that's when it's like, okay, wake up, like you're hurting other people around you, it's time to make a change. Sometimes it can affect you financially or even your health, like if you're doing things in unhealthy amounts, it's going to affect you eventually.